So Kanu, thank you very much for agreeing to be part of this video. The purpose is to use this like a training exercise, and I thought it would be nice for us to in any case practice this because it's always joyful to listen to each other's experiences. So basically I just wanted to know that over the last let's say 1 or 2 years that you are very much part of the leadership of Soil. When you recount all the things that have happened to you, the journey in Soil, what are some of the moments which you remember which describe Kanu at your best? And not only where you gave your personal best, but also the team you were working with, that they also gave their best. And so the two were really aligned in something that you did. So, I would love to hear that from you.
So very clearly when I think back, the time frame that comes to my mind immediately is that of setting up Soil in its very first year. Somehow that always resonates the most with me as a person, as who I am. That was back in 2009, and we were a smaller team, of course, probably 1/3 the size we are today. But the energy of that team was as much as it is with the 33 people today. Those 8 or 10 people working together were doing as much as we are today, perhaps more. And what really bonded us together at that time was a common dream. We were all there because we believed in something much larger than life. I often recount how at that time we didn't have this building. We didn't really have any faculty with us. We had no curriculum design in place. We only had it on in our minds and in our hearts. And yet we were able to talk to the larger audience, talk to students, tell them about this dream, and get them engaged in this dream. So I think that's what really resonated with me, that we were able to translate a dream into action together as a team. So that's one very powerful instance in my mind.
So when you look back at that period and the special moments that we all spent together in my old house, which is now the guest house, and we were all huddled together in a space of 3 rooms, I also remember that as a very wonderful time. What were some of the things that you remember you and the team doing together? I know the period was something exceptional. Yes. But could you describe when you yourself were at your best along with the team? Can you recall the things that you did? And what were those moments that really gave you the maximum joy at that time?
So, elaborating on what I was earlier mentioning about reaching out to people, that was, I think, our primary focus at that time. We knew everything else was only a matter of time, but our primary focus as a team was to tell as many people as possible about Soil. So in that endeavor, I clearly remember the days when we all used to be counseling students as to why Soil would be the right opportunity for them. And this would happen, like you said, in that 3-bedroom space. So there would be somebody on the phone, there would be somebody else sitting on the couch with a student. There would be somebody talking to the student's parents about a bank loan. There would be another person preparing the marketing collateral and the plan for going outdoors and reaching out to a larger audience. And, bonding us all together was the truth of what we were delivering, was that inherent belief in what we were talking about. And a specific instance, for example, that comes to my mind is one of our students had come with his uncle to talk about what we do and to inquire whether he should apply. And I remember that was a time when there were only 2 of us in the office, me and Mr. Chopra. And this student's uncle turned out to be a lawyer. And he asked me, show me your curriculum and show me your course outlines and your course material. And I thought to myself that we don't really have any of that right now. And I obviously wanted to tell him the whole truth, but at the same time I realized his predicament as an uncle of a future student. So I went up to Mr. Chopra and I asked him what we could do. And he shared with me the course outline of one of our faculty from overseas, which that faculty uses there. And I felt that was a beautiful way of instilling confidence in a customer And I could actually go back with that hard copy and tell him that this is what the faculty teaches in Ohio. He's probably going to teach something similar here. So it was so honest and so transparent that that student was convinced to join, did very well while he was here, and is still a great alumni.
So tell me, this particular instance, which obviously is, really something in your memory, and I can see it in your presence when you talk about instances of this kind, which is of real authenticity and openness, transparency.
That's right.
Now, these kinds of things, what enabled you and the team to sort of do this together? What enabled you, Krishan, and all of us to work in this manner, which really created something which is out of just from a dream into action? Where did that come from?
It's very interesting because when I think where it came from, I am drawn back to the words that we use in Soil's vision. So if I could use the same words here, because they're very compelling. It was actually character, competence, and enthusiasm that enabled this. Why I say that is because when I talk of character, it's that authenticity that we just spoke about, that each one of us resonated with as people. And if you see the entire hiring process of Soil, it was just about people coming together because they believed in it. We didn't really, while we were trying to reach out through the formal channels, those didn't really work for us. What worked for us were networks, were known people who had common values, and that's a character aspect. The second point was definitely competence. I think the individuals who came together at that time and even now are extremely competent individuals in their own spaces. And they are individuals who know how to take ownership for the work that they do. And when each individual was separately taking ownership, that definitely contributed a lot to the authenticity. And the third aspect was sheer enthusiasm about what we were building. I don't know whether that would have been so high for this team if we were building something else. But because what we were building was of meaning to a larger purpose or a higher purpose, that's where the enthusiasm really came in. And each of us was taking initiative, each of us was giving our 100%. We don't really look back at those times and say, we used to stay till 8 o'clock. That didn't really matter at all. It somehow, that extra hour didn't matter at all. So that is the kind of enthusiasm this team could generate together.
And I can see your whole face lighting up and your whole presence. I can see that magic even now in your very presence here. Now tell me, this particular magic of the people coming together, sharing that enthusiasm, sharing common values, really enjoying working with one another, where did that come from? I mean, did it just happen by itself, or was there something that was enabling this whole process to take place?
I don't quite know. It seems like it just happened, but there must have been an enabler. And what comes to mind really is the work environment. There was very little hierarchy, if I can use that word, at that time. It was more of co-creation, and that probably was one reason that enabled this to happen. But there was also a lot of fun element, which we really focused on as a team. I think as you grow larger, it's more difficult to do that regularly. But we used to have, as you would remember, amazing karaoke nights, or which was so de-stressing in the very nature of their being absolutely flat as an organization. Even if you saw in the way we sat at that time, there was no cabin system, or there was no differences in the desk spaces. We all sat around a dining table, and all that really created this element of co-creation, which probably enabled this team. So it's interesting. I don't know if I can say more than that.
No, this is very nice. So what you're really saying is, because there was that togetherness, because there was no hierarchy, there were no sort of formal structures of that kind, and because everyone was willing to chip in, and there was this whole process of people saying, okay, this is our work.
That's right.
And we were really enjoying each other's company.
Enjoying each other's company is very important.
And the whole element of fun that you said, that They will never, even though they were very strong time targets,
Yes.
but it was not something that ever bothered us at that time. Yes.
Yes, and I think the people who came together were similar in many ways. We were very different and yet similar. So we were different in our competencies, and that therefore brought diversity to the table, which really made us do well. But we were similar in our idea of enjoyment and our sense of purpose and our values. And that probably just happened. I don't know, maybe we attracted the right kind of people, and we still do.
Yeah. Now tell me, this seems very special. I mean, this is that part of an organization, even though I'm very much part of it like a colleague and a fellow traveler. But when I just hear the story once again, I think this seems like very, very special. Tell me, when you were doing all this work, and I remember you're doing some very exceptional things at that time, and I used to say to myself that, wow, here is somebody that young with that kind of talent, it was so special to see that. What did you discover about your own self when you were doing these multiple things? What were the things you discovered inside you, which you felt were real gifts,
Right.
which you discovered at that time?
I think my biggest gift, which I discovered only at that time, and I didn't really know I had it earlier, was in technical terms sales. I think I started realizing that when I believe in a product, I can actually sell it best ever. Because prior to that, my role was in an IT organization, and I still believe that technology doesn't vary too much across XYZ companies. And here, when I really believed in the product and I knew the best points, it really helped me discover that personality in me, which can convince somebody about something. But I also recognized the other side of me, which was my focus on delivering the product or delivering the promise. So I realized that while I'm excellent at sales and I can do that, I realized that my sheer passion lies in making the final delivery and making the promise come together. So I used to enjoy myself most when there was an event that we, co-created, or when there was a launch of soil, or when I used to see faculty coming in. So I was at my highest when those incidents happened. So I think these were two things I discovered.
So which means that you really discovered that when you believe in something, you have this very natural
Yes.
ability to take that idea to people
That's right.
and say, this is important for your needs. So this ability to communicate, to influence,
Yes.
because you have a deep amount of trust in something.
Yes.
That means you discovered that although you had never done sales in that sense earlier, but you had this natural gift
That's right.
once you believed in something.
That's right.
And the second thing was just a passion that you discovered in yourself to carry through an idea from a concept to seeing it come alive.
Execution, that's right.
The
Yes.
execution capability.
That's right, that's right.
So two very wonderful gifts to have that.
And that environment really helped me discover both these gifts.
Yeah. This is very nice. Now tell me, this ability to influence people, this ability to convey and communicate in a powerful way,
Right.
and this ability to make sure that everything comes together and gets executed.
Right.
Where does this come from in Kanupriya?
That's interesting.
In other words, what are your biggest strengths you
Hmm.
discovered which are at play in this,
Okay.
let's say, almost natural way of selling,
All right.
or which is seen in this wonderful execution?
All right. All right.
So what are those strengths you discover in
Right.
yourself
Right.
which are applied through these processes?
Alright.
Yeah.
So they're very different strengths. In fact, for the selling part, I think my ability to look at something from somebody else's point of view
Yes.
came across very strongly, especially with a service offering like soil.
Yes.
Because it's very important to understand where that person is in their own career growth,
Sure.
and then understand how an intervention like soils leadership schooling can really help them take it to the next level. So we were speaking to approximately 200 students at that point and more, and we really needed to recognize very quickly what each one wants from life. And that's something that I've been doing over many years, and I think that probably comes from there, knowing how to see things from other people's perspectives, and also being able to play back very easily what they are thinking. So there are times when the person is struggling to put his own thoughts together, but if I, as the salesperson, can simply string his thoughts and present it to him, and then tell him how logically this product is for him at this point in time, that probably helped at that time.
Wonderful. So what you're saying is this ability to empathize and feel what's important, and then being able to structure your own thinking
Yes.
and present that and communicate that in a manner that makes sense, that
That's
speaks to her needs
Yes.
and not something your needs.
Exactly.
So that wonderful gift of empathy and then articulation
Yes.
in a manner that makes impact because it is really touching the special needs of that person.
That's right. That's right.
These are wonderful gifts. Yeah, this is amazing. And what about the execution
Yeah,
side?
so the execution side probably comes across from the ability to take decisions, which, if I think back, is probably a lot about clarity of thinking, maybe, and the ability to understand what's important and what's not. I think in Hindi they call this Vivek. This quality of mine is called Vivek, probably. So just that ability to know that this is what is critical at this juncture, and this is what we can